Lesson 92 video part 2. Okay, I'm going to write something on the board. And you're going to say equations for the facts. So, you're going to say equations for the facts. Some of the facts give 2 names, some give 3 names. If a fact gives 3 names, you write the equation for the name that has a number. So, let's read this one. 2/7 of the shirts were wet. There were 25 dry shirts. So, how many names does it give us? It gives us 3 names. It gives us shirts that were either wet or dry. So, what you need to do is set up the problem for the number it gives us. Which one does it give us a number of? Dry. So, even though we know 2/7 were wet, we have 7 out of 7 in all. So, how many of those were dry? 5/7. What's left over? 5/7, because this plus this, it would be 7 out of 7. So now we know 5/7 of the shirts were dry. And we can cross out the D because we know that number. It's 25. Because it tells us in there. So, that is how you set it up. Next one. I'll rewrite this. Two-sevenths of the shirts were wet. There were 28 shirts. So, how many names does it give us here? It only gives us 2 names on this one. Shirts and wet. So, we need to write the equation for what it gives us. Well, we know this, so 2/7 of the shirts were wet. And what do we know? Shirts. So we could cross that out and put 28 to solve. Here's another one. Four-fifths of the shirts were wet. There were 20 wet shirts. So, all we need to do is write out the equation that has how many names? 2, because that's what it gives us. Shirts and wet. This says wet as well, so we know that's all we have. So we can say 4/5 of the shirts. Remember what I said, 4/5 or of the means times and were means equals wet. And what do we know? There were 20 of the wet shirts. All right. So find part 4 in your textbook. You have A, B, C, D, and E. Problem A says 3/5 of the trees were firs. There were 20 trees. Write the letter equation for the facts. So when I read it, I can say 3/5 of the trees were firs. There were 20 trees. All you're doing is writing out the facts. You're not solving this. So 3/5 of the means multiply, trees, were, equals is what that means, furs. And what do we know? T. Cross out T, put 20. This is all you need to do for this part. You do not need to solve it. Next one. So this is A. B. 7/8 of the, I know that means multiply, dogs were, I know that means equals, what? Sleeping. Now, what does it tell us though? 24 of the dogs were awake, so I need to write the second equation for that. Well, if I have 7/8 of the dogs were sleeping, I know that 1/8 of the dogs were awake. Okay, next one. 2/9 of the apples were ripe. There were 18 apples. So I have 2/9 of the apples were ripe. And how many apples did I have? 18. So I can cross that out and put 18. Next one, D. 5/8 of the children were boys. So there's C, D. 5/8 of the children were what? Boys. And then it tells us there were 27 girls. So I need to rewrite the equation for that one. Well, what's left over from 5 out of 8? 3. So I know I have 3/8 of the children were girls. How many girls did it say there were? 27. And then you can do problem D on your own. So, your independent work begins now. So you have your textbook, 5 through 11, and workbook, 3 and 4. Good luck, get busy, and reach out to me if you need help.